Welcome to the Legislator of the Week, a program that is showcasing to you activities of legislators, especially those related to their motions, bills, and political struggles. My name is Abdullahi Aminu. In our program today, I have with me an educationist by profession who has now chosen to serve his country as a politician. He is the member House of Representatives representing Jibia Kaita Federal Constituency of Katsina State, known as Honourable Sada Soli Jibia. Honourable, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I would like to put my first question, Honourable, in the process that our viewers will know about the brief history of you, who is Honourable Sada Soli.
Well, first of all, I was born in March 1962. I started my educational sojourn at the prestigious Katsina Training School, that is now Katsina Teachers College. Thereafter, I moved to College of Education, Kafanchan, under the awarding certificate by the Ahmad Bello University, Zaria. Thereafter, I was recruited by Kaduna State and Kaduna State Ministry of Education. I taught briefly. Then thereon, I got an in-service training. I went for my first degree. Thereafter, I went for my service. I came to FCT, rendered NYC service. In the course of that, I was appointed the co-liaison officer. Thereafter, I won a commendation for rendering a good service in the course of my National Youth Service Corps. I was automatically recruited by FCT administration. Thereafter, I was sitting down around 1992. I saw a letter, a deployment letter, that I should be deployed to National Assembly. That's how I got into the National Assembly, and I was recruited there, and we were in the House. I was recruited under the House of Representatives, working in the committees and in the chamber. I served for about 14 years in the process. Thereafter, I was recruited through leadership recruitment of late Umar Musa Eradua of blessed memory to come to contest for an election. Even before then, actually, I could remember President Obasanjo graciously approved my appointment to be seconded to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to be posted to Washington to serve as special assistant to Professor Abdullahi Aminu and minister counselor in the embassy. We provided good public service. After 4 years, we returned to Nigeria. I was requested to stay in the foreign ministry, but I rejected that offer. I was de-seconded to the National Assembly, continue my service there. Thereafter, 2006, I resigned my appointment after 14 years of service in the National Assembly. I joined politics on the invitation of late President Musa Eradua when he was the governor of Katsina State. I won my election 2007, 2011. After that, after the election, I suffered the tsunami of the CPC. We lost election, but God in His infinite mercy, I was appointed the chair of staff to the then Speaker Tambol. We provided good services. After that, I kept on working with him up to 2019. I joined again another election where I was elected again to represent Jibia Kaita 2019. And thereafter also, now 2023, I'm equally re-elected to continue to serve the good people of Jibia and Kaita. But in between, I provided a number of public service in Washington. I attended a number of conferences, meetings. Some of them are numerous just to mention. This this interview may not give me the space to mention that.
Honorable, by looking at your profile as a teacher and a public servant, Nigerians would like to know why do you choose to go into politics?
Well, you see, politics is as good as any career. I realized during my service in the National Assembly as a staff, there is a gap. There is a gap in election, in legislative engineering, especially with the way, looking at the infancy of our democratic process. And I realized I have something to offer to the service of this country, to the service of the institution of the legislature, and above all, on the invitation of my people, having realized that I have something to offer in the process of representing them in the hallowed chamber of House of Representatives. And then not that teaching is not is a good profession, it's the best profession on earth, because every person that you have seen is a product of a teacher in one way or the other. But I found that there's a gap in that, and I ventured into it, even though I was politically or in the process of leadership recruitment of late Eradua. I was recruited having searched very well to find that I have something to offer, particularly to Katsina State in the process of rendering public service. I was recruited, I joined politics, and God's willing, my people accepted my venture, elected me, and encouraged me to continue to do that. So I found getting into politics, it's a very, very important sacrifice one should render.
You are now a successful ranking member of the House of Representatives who was born in Jibia, local government area of Katsina State, a border town with Niger Republic. What were you able to identify as the economic and social challenges bedeviling development?
Yes, being on the border town of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the opportunities there are so vast, looking at the economic activities there. So there are a number of opportunities. If you happen to go to my area, you find that our people are quite up and doing. They are quite busy. There are a lot of economic opportunities within the limited resources that are available there. So there are a number of economic activities, particularly now that you have the train line is coming to Magama, Jibia, then it will cross over to Niger Republic. I think there will be a number of opportunities that will open to our people. Yes, there are challenges. The challenges, particularly the security challenges, then the issue of the purchasing power of our people also is another thing because of the circumstances that we found ourselves. But above all, I can tell you our people are doing very well. There's a number of economic opportunities that are open to our young people, and then God, in His infinite mercy, our people are not lazy. Our young people are very, very active. If you happen to go to Jibia, you find that our people are very, very active in terms of economic pursuit.
Honorable, I can remember at one time you wrote a letter to KEDCO, the electricity distribution company in Katsina State. It was in respect to non-supply of the electricity in your constituency. What was the situation like?
Well, you see, at that time, yes, there were challenges by the KEDCO, the Kano Distribution Electricity Company, in terms of providing electricity, but they have their own challenges. When I wrote that letter and fulfilling some of my representative responsibilities, where it has to do with my constituents, I had to lay a complaint because of the seeming lack of attention by KEDCO in supplying electricity to my people. We laid that complaint, we went to KEDCO, and God so kind, they responded. positively they came. There were a number of issues that need to do with their equipment, and God so willing, they came, changed the equipment, changed some lines, moved some of the obsolete equipment, brought new ones, and God's willing, now we have a relative power supply, and people are paying. Our people do pay, but at that time, Kerko complained that people don't pay. I said, no, provide the power, and you will see people joining to pay. And God's willing, now the electricity is steady, is constant, and our people are better now.
Honorable, as a member of the House of Representatives, why writing a letter to state government instead of presenting a motion on the floor of the House of Representatives?
There are many ways you can achieve things. There are many ways you can achieve things. Not necessarily you bring issues on the floor of the House. If you have a backdoor channel on how you can achieve certain things, the better. And getting things in life, you must not always take the extreme. There are ways and means that you can always get things, and then you find that at the end, that's the best way of doing things. I had the opportunity to do that, but I found that that could not have been the best way of doing it. And we took the easiest way, and we got the desired results.
If you are just joining us, the program you are watching is the Legislator of the Week with Honourable Sada Soli Jibia, representing Jibia Keita Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. Stay tuned. Honorable, let us go to security issues in your constituency, where banditry act and kidnapping have long been an issue of concern, not only to Katsina State, but Nigeria at large. What legislations were you able to provide in that regards?
Well, if you follow my legislative efforts on the floor of the House, you can attest to the fact that I brought a number of motions on the floor, and I was a member of, there was one security summit conducted, arranged by the Honourable Speaker. I was a member of that committee, and a number of intervention that borders on security issues. Yes, banditry, yes, kidnapping is a very disturbing menace. It's a very disturbing situation that our people found themselves. But relatively, we have done very well. We have moved a number of motions. When I could remember, I moved a motion that led to the invitation of all the service chiefs. They came on the floor of the House, looking at some of the areas that we can mitigate the menace of this kidnapping and banditry. And then God's willing, with the intervention of the military, I don't think what was happening 2-3 years back is the same now.
On the 21st July 2019, you moved a motion on menace of what you called, let me put it in quotes, embarrassment and extortion by some officers of the Nigerian Customs Service. In your constituency, where you not thinking that you could be seen as trying to cover his constituency?
Well, that's one of the representative job. When your people are going through certain things that are unacceptable, it is my duty to bring that to fore, to bring that to the attention of the country, and to bring that to the attention of those that are involved. Yes, of course, like you rightly said before, I am from the border town. Every person knows what happens on the border towns, not necessarily in Nigeria, but generally all over the world. Yes, there were a number of issues with the customs officials and my people, and I thought I should raise this issue so that the Parliament can look at it and bring some succor to my people, to the complaints of my people. So I legitimately brought the complaint of my people, and then those complaints were looked at, and then somehow we found a middle ground to address some of the issues.
Honorable, you were the Chief of Staff to Honorable Speaker, House of Representatives from 2001 to 2015. What were you able to find out as experience while you're there?
It was a tough job. Let me be honest with you, it was a tough job. Meanwhile, I was dealing with former members, and then at the same time, I'm dealing in between with the serving members. Then in between is the speaker. Then the staff, then the management. You are, as a chief of staff of the speaker, you are left literally in dealing with the entire National Assembly, where the speaker is not available. Let me be honest with you, you are the speaker. You are the speaker in the office, not in the chamber, because everything will revolve around you. The speaker will be waiting for you. You are up there 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, waiting to attend, because the speakership job is a 24-hour job. Then being the chief of staff to the speaker, so long as you want to be effective, so long as you want to have the speaker, you have to work along with the speaker 24/7. There was no weekend being the chief of staff to the speaker, and there was no holiday, because the speaker doesn't rest. I have not seen the speaker resting, because in one way or the other he's attending either national issue, his constituency issue, then above all, the management of the 359 members is a daunting task. And in between, that's where the chief of staff finds himself. And another interesting thing, and I can tell you, I found myself that I read about 120 mails every day. And you need to reply them, because the speaker, most of the times, is engaged in doing some other things. You need to reply them. You need to know the position of these things. Then you need to track the invitation of the speaker. You need to track his traveling. You need to read all his speeches. Sometimes I write these speeches, vet them. If somebody write the speeches for the speaker, I need to vet the speaker. I need to know what he's going to say, what he's going to read. And sometimes if the issue is about the trust, that job is about the trust. A number of times the speaker will ask me, did you read this? What is going to read? Did you read it? And I will tell him that yes, I have read it. And he will go ahead to read it. So you can imagine the level of trust in it, and you have to be up and doing, and you must know everything that goes around that office. That is the brief I can tell you about being the chief of staff or the speaker. And I don't envy that office.
Honorable, it is appreciative that you have discharged the responsibility of that Chief of Staff office.
Oh, absolutely.
Diligently.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can ask the staff of the National Assembly and some of the members that we have worked with during the 7th Assembly. I think we are fairly, to be modest, we have done very well.
But now you're the chairman, House Committee on Water Resources. Can you figure out the legislations by your committee as regards to the motions and bills on water resources issues?
There was this worrying bill that was presented by the executive. I think it was 2007 when I came to the National Assembly 2019. I found that bill. The House was considering it, and it was referred to the Committee on Water Resources. Remember, it's an executive bill, it's not a private member bill. And it's incumbent on the House Committee on Water Resources to look at it. We wrote it, we presented it. And at the end, it became a bit contentious because it was subjected to, the public opinion was against it. And remember, once public opinion is against any law, the chances are that law will be very contentious. Just imagine the infectious diseases amendment bill the speaker brought at one time. There was a misconception about it, and then it generated a lot of concern until when those concerns were addressed. So I can relatively say, I think the major legislation that I found under the water resources or water sector is the National Water Resources Bill, which was actually objected, and the members, they have the right. The country expressed their concern about it, and then we reported the issue to the House, and then the bill, naturally, I can say, naturally the bill is dead because the public opinion is against it, but that was an executive bill. And then there are a host of other motions that were taken on the floor of the House on issues of constructing dam here, repairing this dam here, that affects various constituencies across the country, or some abandoned water projects, federal water projects that were referred to our committee, and we dealt with them. A number of them are working in. There is Awak Dam in, I think in Gombe. There was a motion raised on the floor that it should be reconstructed. This is a dam that has been there since 1969. There was a design on that. There was a request for completion of a number of those across the country. Some of them I can't mention because there are so many. There are so many. But indeed, water sector is a very, very, very active sector in this country because of the value chain. The value chain of the water sector is huge. If you consider the GDP, the contribution to our GDP is quite enormous. And then water is life. And water is not an enemy of the living.
Going to your field of profession, I can remember in same July 2019, you moved a motion on the need to avert the impending strike in the country's education system by SANU and NASU. What do you mean?
We are at a crossroad. These associations are a very important segment in the educational sector. And at that time, if any attempt is not made to resolve their issues, you can imagine the impact that it will have on the education of our young people, then also the hiccups that we'll have in the process of rendering educational services. So I thought it was imperative for the government to listen to them. It was imperative for government to sit down and negotiate with them and see what they can do. And I think, God willing, at that time with that motion, when it was communicated to the executive, I think the government was proactive and they stole that kind of action that those associations were planning to take. So somehow, with that intervention, with that effort, with that legislative effort of the House giving us the opportunity, we alerted the government and we alerted the authorities that are in charge in that sector, and something was done, and then the strike was averted.
Honourable Soli, you are now one of the most experienced members of the National Assembly, particularly that your chamber of the House of Representatives. As a ranking member of that chamber, what have you found to be a challenge of the legislature itself and the legislations in Nigeria that needs to be addressed?
One of the challenges is the way we manage our oversight, because oversight function is a very, very important factor in getting the legislature doing the right thing, then also keeping the executive on tap, knowing what they do, how they do, what the money they spend, how they spend the budget. The oversight is a very, very important segment and an important challenge. Then another challenge that I experienced in the course of my service with National Assembly is training and retraining of members, particularly when you have a high turnover of members coming. In most cases, you tend to start afresh. So that's also a challenge. Another challenge that I have observed is the institutional memory. Our record keeping in National Assembly needs to be strengthened because it will help usually those that are coming in or those that are changing places of work, or like if you are moving from one committee to the other, there is the need for you to have an institutional memory so that to know where you are starting, how you are starting, where did someone stop, and how you are going to carry on. What are the available instruments and equipments that will aid you to make an impact on the process of legislative engineering. I think this is basically some of the challenges. Otherwise, I can tell you National Assembly is growing. It was not like this from 1999. Or I can say perhaps maybe from 1992 when I was in National Assembly from the conference center. I remember we started running the National Assembly from conference center in makeshift places. So it is exciting for me to see today the National Assembly going through this kind of transformation. It has transformed. The staff are more experienced now. They are more brushed. They are more in tandem with the best practices around the world in other parliaments, because they have been exposed to so many training and then more qualified people now are being recruited to serve the parliament. So I think fairly I can say this is an outlook that I can say that presents itself with the current realities of the National Assembly.
Honourable Sada Soli, there is one issue that is lingering in the history of Nigeria's politics, where you have mentioned on the 3rd July 2010, you were reported by some news dailies describing the demand by some prominent Nigerians for the late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua to resign due to health condition as uncalled for. Why criticizing their fundamental right?
Well, that's what their fundamental right, but it was there was some political coloration in it. If you look at it, most of them were in opposition, and then at that point in time, it's incumbent on me, having come from Katsina State, representing Katsina State, and this was my president who was ill. He didn't cause this ailment to himself. And then there was need for this compassion. There was need for some understanding. And unfortunately, there was no provision in our law at that time. He was not incapacitated. There was no much provision within the gaps of our constitution that will attract that kind of demand. And most of the demands were being made with some mischief. The demands were being made with an intent to cause some chaos in the country. Imagine that the president was just sick, and then you were asking the president, because he was sick, because he didn't know the condition of his sickness, that he should resign. What will be the conditions of the country? What will be the situation in that country? I think it was right for any reasonable legislator, given the opportunity, to kick against that because of the consequences of that action they were asking for.
This has actually brought us to the end of this week's Legislators of the Week with Honourable Sada Soli Jibia. Thank you, Honourable Sada, for being part of this week's program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful.
From my end as a presenter, I'm saying let's meet next week in another program with another guest. Abdullahi Aminu, I'm saying bye for now.